So, is the Sony a7S 1, 2, or 3 waterproof? The answer is no. Are you crazy? Of course not. So, if you want to take one of these guys underwater, you need to put it in something. I have here the Meikon housing for the Sony a7S II. I've been scuba diving for a while, but haven't really done much camera work. After a little bit of searching and trying to figure out what to do, because there are lots of housings. Not a cam, they're expensive. You look, these housings start well over $1,000, and you can easily get up into $14,000, $15,000 for a housing for a camera like this, which is good, makes sense, right? You don't want your camera filling with water down at 50 feet or whatever. For a cheap housing that runs around anywhere from $500 to $800 depending on the dome port that you're getting and what camera you're putting in it. This is a great way to get started, get practiced up. I've had this down to about 115 feet. One of my concerns about buying a cheap housing is how will it perform? First of all, you want to make sure it doesn't leak, and I've been very, very thankful that this has not leaked. In fact, it's performed very well. The other thing that you need to watch out for if you are buying a budget housing is the pressure. The water pressure on a cheap housing can push all of these buttons in. And if it pushes all those buttons in, it's activating and pushing every single button that it has access to on your camera at the same time, which will lock your camera up and it'll be useless. Now, you can see it's got a little window for your screen here, which is very, very helpful. But I find a lot of times when you're diving, you're basically seeing like, okay, I'm going wide and I'm keeping something in the frame. It'd be nice if we had a monitor up here so we could look down on it, but at least this gets you in the game, right? I'm using my Sony a7S II with the 24 to 70 f4 Zeiss lens on it, which is a great lens. And underwater with the a7S II, the low light capabilities of it, it's awesome, very cool. But I'm gonna set it up on autofocus because you don't have focus controls. Now, trying to use this little monitor to see your shot and to try to adjust focus, you're not really gonna be needing a focus control because it's really difficult. So having it set up to autofocus is the best. I keep my aperture right around f7 to f9. I find that's kind of my sweet spot for giving me a little bit of depth of field, but not too much. You don't want it down at like f22 where you're seeing every spot and imperfection and bubble on the front of your dome. You want to have some separation, but you don't want to be full open to f4 either. One of the reasons I find that being full open to f4 is a problem is if you're near the surface, things tend to look blown out. I have my shutter speed at 1/50, shooting at 24 frames, f7 to f9, and I leave my ISO on auto, and that is what allows me to adjust for the exposure. Now, one thing you do need to know, when you do go to Amazon or Meikon, this tray, which is what these arms, these handles, they call this the tray, does not come with it. That is sold separately. And you can find a bunch of these on the Meikon site or on Amazon. More links in the description below to what I use. But one of the other things that you don't have control over is you don't have the fancy front dial that normally on land I have set up to control my shutter speed. So you can set up in your camera, in your menu, to reverse it so that the back dial is your aperture or shutter speed. If I needed to, if I wanted to switch to photography and I wanted a faster shutter speed, you can go into the menu while you're underwater and actually switch it back. You can totally do that, that's cool. Now, if you are diving, especially if you're diving in the Great Lakes, where we don't have all that nice, beautiful, clear water and sunshine, you're gonna need some illumination. Found these guys, these bad boys, on Amazon, link in my description. And these lights here, I don't even know what the name is. I went back and checked my Amazon account to see what the name is, and it doesn't appear to have a name. So they're about 90 bucks each. So that's not cheap, but that's not super expensive. And actually, I've been pleasantly surprised. So these lights, they are rated, and I don't recommend trying this, but they're rated to 500 feet. You're never gonna go down that far. But they are supposed to be rated to 500 feet. They're powered by 4 of those 18650 batteries, which you can get some of those on Amazon. And I found that these lights, are actually pretty bright. Now, okay, watch your eyes, guys. Here we go. Like, wow, check that out. That is pretty cool. That is on the highest setting, and then a little bit lower and lowest and off. Also, because they're LED RGB lights, we've got red. So especially if you're diving, you want to get you want to bring some of those red colors back in. As if you're a diver, you know that red disappears pretty quickly underwater, and that's why we need the red filters on our lenses, and flashing if you're in an emergency or you want to be the underwater police, maybe trick somebody, trick a fish, pull a school over or something. Got some blue, and of course, you can combine these. So we got our white with some red. So very cool stuff. For a $90 light, two of these, one on each side, and again, in another video, I'll show you how I set mine up. It works quite well. Downside of these lights, not a whole lot of downsides. So far, they've performed quite well, had them down to 115 feet, no issues. The only downside is that the white light, although it's balanced for daylight, it does seem to have a slight purplish hue to it, where the Kraken lights don't. And I think any other light manufacturer, like a legit underwater light manufacturer, will not have that. But for a $90 light to get you going underwater and down to possibly 500 feet, I think it's pretty cool. So again, these cameras don't go underwater by themselves. Don't try it at home or out anywhere else, okay? Be smart, play safe. You can't take this underwater without a housing. The Meikon housing, link in the description. You're gonna need the housing, you're gonna need a tray, and then as you get more advanced, and you wanna try some more stuff, you're gonna need some underwater illumination. We'll go over the ball clamps and the arms in another video, floats, all that kind of stuff. But overall, this Meikon housing with a Sony a7S, they also have housings for the Nikons and for the Canons and for a few other things too. Check them out, very cool. Highly recommend as an affordable way to get your camera underwater for snorkeling or for scuba diving. Thanks a lot, guys. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, hit the bell notifications, all that kind of stuff. And I'm looking forward to doing some more videos on camera gear and scuba gear and maybe a few other things. We'll see you next time.